Some startups go up, others go down. Welcome to GeekWire's Elevator Pitch, where 3 entrepreneurs pitch their businesses in the 32 seconds it takes to get to the top of Seattle's historic Smith Tower. Over the course of 4 episodes, we'll narrow the field from a dozen entrepreneurs to one winner. In this episode of Elevator Pitch, presented by PACCAR, we'll hear from 3 startup founders as they pitch their emerging businesses to our panel of leading investors and entrepreneurs. Let's meet our judges. T.A. McCann, a serial software entrepreneur, investor, and professional sailor who sold his last company to Google and counts Rival IQ and more than a half dozen other startups to his name. Heather Redman, power broker and former Getty Images executive who cuts deals as managing director of venture capital firm Flying Fish Partners. Darren Siver, the PACCAR senior vice president who is positioning the manufacturer of Peterbilt and Kenworth trucks for a new era. The clock is ticking. Jump on board and ride with us on the elevator pitch and find out which entrepreneur has what it takes to make it to the top.
My name is Manuela Papadopol. I'm the CEO of Designated Driver.
Welcome to Smith Tower.
Autonomous cars promise a new world of mobility. They'll change our future. They will allow us to have more time with our family and be safer. Introducing teleoperations. With teleoperations, a human is able to remotely control an autonomous vehicle when it encounters a situation it cannot handle. This is what we at Designated Driver are developing. Teleoperation software that is able to scale to multiple vehicles, from shuttles to trucks, from mining to agriculture. The new world of mobility is close, and we at Designated Driver are thrilled to be part of it. Hello.
Tell us a little bit more about what is different about Designated Driver than some of the others, and call it differentiation.
Right, yeah, thank you for the question. You're right, we've seen a shift in mobility. Car makers are now mobility providers. We saw alliances that we never thought it would exist in our lifetime. BMW and Daimler working together on an autonomy system. So for Designated Driver, the core technology is building safety at the base of teleoperation. The other important element is human-machine interface and user experience. That's something that sometimes is an afterthought for most of the companies that I've talked to that are trying to enter the space. We need to think about the fact that the teleoperator is a driver that sits miles away from the shuttle that's being transported. It's a person that sits in front of various screens and is driving, has a steering wheel and gas pedals, and needs to communicate with the people in the shuttles. So you need to be able to have that human-machine interface that allows them to bring the human element into the mix, to humanize the technology.
So why is that safer than having a person in the car?
Well, it's safer when you're looking at autonomy, right? It's not necessarily safer if you're augmenting the current person that's driving, but it is safer when you're looking at a vehicle that has nobody in a driver's seat, that has no steering wheel, no gas pedals. You know this, right? PACCAR is looking at transforming the mobility for trucking and logistics, because humans do trust human more than they trust machine. And that's where teleoperation comes in.
The thing that would worry me for you if I were building the business model is that you're basically taking on all of the risk of this extremely complicated industry. What is the main pitch to them that you make that they buy, and how much do they buy it for?
So we have 5 customers already. We started the company about a year ago. I want to correct one thing. We are building software, so we're not building operation centers. Because if you think about it, car makers and truck makers and mobility providers, they want to own the brand experience and the ownership. Teleoperator then could be certified by Daimler, right, using Designated Driver software technology, is able to remotely drive the vehicle and place it into a more desirable location.
When you see your product in the market, there's legislation, there's public acceptance, there's a lot of hurdles and obstacles. That might take a while. Can you make it that long?
The reality is that the automotive industry needs automation for various reasons. fewer accidents, impact in our lifestyle, and automation will happen. Is it going to be high volume next year? Absolutely not. But we have to take small steps and understand how can we perfect the technology in order to bring it to mass production and bring it outside geo-fenced areas. As car makers are starting to roll out level 4, level 5 of autonomy, we'll see much more opportunity for designated driver to be incorporated in the production. Right now, we're looking at R&D.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Great questions. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
What did you think?
It's just so it's complicated because you got to put software in a lot of different places. B, they don't provide the full service, and then whoever the customer is going to have to staff it in some service center, I presume, that presumably would be delivered by.
Or I'm going to staff it probably because I'm going to provide O&M, for that missing piece.
I think Heather's under that. Well, there's a person looking at a bank of 10 autonomous vehicles, and they have to.
Right, I think she's not providing that.
No,
she's
not.
providing
She's providing
presumably
software.
some software, which I wasn't exactly clear
It's
which
still-
piece of software.
Yeah.
But then you get into this question about liability.
Right.
So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, then the car's driving autonomously, then the car stops, then it transfers to a human driver that's running on their software, but the human driver isn't employed by them. The human driver is employed by somebody else. We don't know who.
Right.
And then let's say that car has an accident. Who takes responsibility?
Well, and they would say, we're the software company and we're not us,
That's
Yeah,
one
but
of
the
the
software could easily make a mistake.
Right.
core questions in this whole technology and space is the liability.
So I think someone who's going to take full responsible for the liability, which obviously will have to happen, will then be the person that wants to control that software. And it just didn't feel like there's enough of a software to be built there that's above and beyond all the other stuff that's necessary to go drive the car.
It's a bit thin.
I'm Greg Newbloom. I'm the founder and CEO of Membrion.
Welcome to Smith Tower.
Membrion has found the solution to clean and abundant power hiding in the bottom of a beef jerky package. We figured out a way to transform that silica gel into a membrane that can be used to power the next generation of vehicles. Companies like Toyota are betting the farm that fuel cells will replace lithium-ion batteries by 2030. But this transition is being slowed down by membranes that are too expensive and ineffective. Membrion membranes are 10 times less expensive to manufacture, and we're already rolling out product to customers. We think that eating a bit more jerky is a great way to power the future of transportation.
So take us back to just like very basics. What is the issue and how are you guys solving it? And tell us about a specific customer who's using it today.
Yeah, so we're the specific issue that we're addressing was that when you use these membranes in systems, they consume a lot of energy. So they're really energy inefficient, and so that was the primary problem that we're solving, is we're trying to make them more energy efficient.
Because they don't conduct well?
Because they don't conduct well, yeah. Okay. They have to conduct protons in order to work, and those are small and they're hard to move, and so the current membranes don't do that well, so you end up having to use a lot more of the energy to get that through, and that's one of the things that we reduce is that energy cost. But then beyond that, the materials that we're using are also much, much cheaper. The existing materials are expensive. We use commodity materials in order to get to the same point. We're a membrane company, an advanced materials company, and so getting advanced materials into the market is actually really challenging, especially in automobiles. It's often a 10-year cycle in order to get into the supply chain for automobile manufacturers. So the way that we've approached that is knowing that our membrane can be used there. We use them in identical battery applications and things like that. We're actually starting a market entry point in water desalination, where we have customers that are currently testing our membranes, and we anticipate being about 2 months away from our first purchase order with customers.
And what will that purchase order be, order of magnitude?
Yeah, so initially the customers that we're working with now have somewhere on the order of a $20 million worth of membranes that they purchase today. And there's a kind of ramp up period where they'll put an initial purchase order for $10,000 worth of membranes, and then before making that final switch over. So we're quite a bit through that testing phase, but that's currently where we're at.
But that would presume that even the desalination category or filtration is a gigantic category. Why isn't the pitch start there?
Yeah, so I mean, I think part of it is because this is the transportation sector pitch. So the real big opportunity for ion exchange membranes is in fuel cells. So it's growing. It's $1 billion market today. It's growing at a 24% compound annual growth rate for the membrane component alone. So it's a huge opportunity. The entrenched technology is 40 plus years old with no real innovation, but it's the thing that works. And so we see that as the big opportunity, but the time to market there is super slow. And so we're looking at, who's willing to buy this today, and at the market itself is a premium market, and so we can get good margins on it even at low volumes, and begin to build that pipeline into that fuel cell world, knowing that it's a long journey, but that's the big opportunity.
How dependent is your business case on that fuel cell? If that doesn't become the way,
yeah.
Where does that leave you?
Yeah, so the market opportunity without fuel cells is about 1.8 billion. So it's with fuel cells, it's a $2.8 billion market. So still, nothing. It's still a great opportunity for us, even if that doesn't pan out. But that's certainly a market that we're watching closely and entering.
Well, producing sort of clean water is going to be maybe job number one for the planet.
Absolutely. Over
the next 20 years. So maybe that is a market that does shield you from some of the risk on the automotive side.
Yeah, we think so, and we think that there's enough. We're getting enough customer pull from there, market pull, that we think that if nothing else, it's a way for us to get in, because the market exists today, even with the niche markets that exist today, and then the really big opportunities are addressing brackish agricultural water, things like that, and we have partners we're working with on that end too.
So Greg, you said it was 10 times less expensive to manufacture your membrane versus the alternative. So is that today, or is that your prediction at some scale you would be 10 times?
So today we're 2 times less expensive to manufacture, and our anticipation is once right now we're still a pre-revenue company. We're right on the cusp of revenue. But what we can make it for today is about half as expensive. And then looking at when we can start buying all of our materials at scale, we start getting to when we start scaling the size and the manufacturing, we see an easy trajectory to 1/10.
One last question. What is it, as you think about this, that keeps you up at night?
That keeps me up at night. I think realistically, for us, it has been the scale-up challenge, and it continues to be. When we first started, we were making membranes that were this big, and so maintaining that performance as we scale up to physically larger sizes. The size that you're holding now is about a quarter of a commercial size membrane, and they go all the way up to a meter squared in size. So continuing to maintain that performance, it's something that we have a proven track record. We've demonstrated that we can do it. We can do it rapidly. But anytime you increase the size, there's a huge risk there that something won't go well, that something won't work. So we're looking to check off that final box and get to the largest commercial size by the end of this year, so that we have that fully de-risked. But that's the thing that I constantly think about.
Good.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Exciting technology.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's fascinating to think that the membrane is 40 to 60%
Yeah.
of the cost in
Yeah.
either a filter or
I know, that
desalinization.
stunned me.
It's amazing.
Stunned me. And there's probably a lot of other applications that he, didn't have a chance to detail for us, but this is one that could scale pretty rapidly with some capital.
Well, the economics are so powerful. So even if you split the difference and call it 50% of the price
Yeah.
of a unit is the membrane, and his membrane is 50% the price.
There's
There are a lot
margin
of people who are going to be interested
That changes.
in that. That changes very
a
quickly.
whole market. Yeah.
And that may in fact make the entire approach toward desalinization much more effective, or it may change the economics of the fuel cell business.
Right.
Or the battery business, depending on which of those
There's opportunity
changes,
in
but-
both, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My name is Jason Atherton, and I'm the co-founder at Shared Technology.
Welcome to Smith Tower.
One of the biggest problems in Seattle and the world is traffic. Shared Technologies created a network of shared sit-down mopeds. They're fast, especially going uphill, comfortable because you're sitting down, safe because of the low center of gravity, affordable, and just a ton of fun to ride. You use the app to find a scooter, jump on, ride wherever you want. When you're done, park and just walk away. Our users love us. The biggest challenge that we have is just keeping up with demand. Hello.
What prompted you to start this company?
Yeah, so we would love to solve for transportation, and we hate to drive, and especially in the city. So we'd love to find a way to get people out of their cars all the time. So we'd love to just shut down all these streets to cars and let people just ride scooters and walk and have utilize micromobility and bicycles all around town. Would be great.
So are you producing the scooter? I don't know if
Yeah, so we make our own units. So we've actually designed our own scooters and we put them together. So that's what makes it a little bit trickier than some of our competitors who've just utilized something that already exists and just put it out in the world. We've created our own sit-down moped style scooter. So it adds an extra piece of complexity for us.
Why did you need to do that? What was missing? What's the white space that you're coloring in?
So these stand-up scooters are great, right? There's a ton of great companies like Bird and Lime, and you ride it around, but essentially it's kind of a kid's toy, and it's fun for a minute or maybe a block, but any further than that, it gets a little sketchy, a little scary. Our unit is designed to be ridden about, maybe 1 to 5 miles is kind of the sweet spot, anything under 5 miles. So something that you would normally take an Uber for, but this costs way less and it's a lot more fun.
How does it compare on price on a per mile basis to any of those other options?
Yeah, so we charge $1 to unlock and 35 cents a minute.
So there's a lot of issues right now about where are these various new micromobilities supposed to be in a city?
Yep.
Sort of parking them, riding them. So you're in bike lanes, in car lanes, on sidewalks. Where do you fit in the hierarchy?
That's a really good question. We work really closely with the city. So right now we're only located in Portland, Oregon. That's our only operating city. And we work really closely with them because every city has their own requirements. So Portland, for example, wants us to ride in the bike lanes and in the street in residential areas. So we've worked with them with geofencing and provided technology to make sure our scooters are not ridden on the sidewalks and also make sure they stay in the bike lanes and on the streets.
How are you dealing with the super high cost of capital for a business like yours? I mean, you are super capital intensive.
Yeah, so we did raise a little bit of money, a little bit of pre-seed funding, which helped us get Portland launched up. And at this point, we're really close to actual profitability within the city.
So aside from capital, what's limiting your growth?
Right now, it's that capital is not really limiting our growth because we've had tons of great conversations with people and people are interested. I'd say the biggest thing for us is figuring out unit economics so it really makes sense. The biggest problems for us probably right now are vandalism and theft. So trying to solve for those things and figure out how to make sure people, these scooters are really fun. I wish I could have brought one with me, but people see these and they just want to literally ride off with them. So those are kind of our biggest issues that we're solving for right now. And once we've solved for that, which I think we're really, really close, we're going to scale this thing out and it's going to be pretty big and pretty exciting.
So what kind of theft factor shrinkage have you accounted for in your business model?
We're still too new. We don't really know yet. And so, right now we're just hoping for, our target is like 0, right? That's our goal. But
So you don't know where all your scooters are right now?
Well, we do know where they are, but sometimes it takes a minute to get them back. So it's kind of interesting. One of our co-founders, she launched Nike's program in Portland, and she got their program up to a point where they only lost like 1 or 2 bikes a year out of thousands of bikes. So she's on board now helping us solve for that, and we're really excited for what she can get going for us.
How many scooters are deployed now in Portland?
We have a license for 200, and we should be at 200 by the time this airs.
What's your biggest worry?
Biggest worry? I'd say for me personally, and this is just me, not the company, is that someone is just reckless and gets hurt. And that's the last thing that I want to see, is like a kid or anyone just not paying attention, not wearing a helmet and getting in an accident. So that's something we care a lot about, or I personally care a lot about, and I want to make sure we do everything we can to provide a safe way for people to get around.
Great, thank you very much.
Cool, thanks guys, thank you.
It was a little, it was a good idea, I guess. I'm not sure there's not enough special to what they're doing.
Yeah, I do think the safety and the longer ride time are key differentiators with municipalities.
That's why I thought it was interesting his economic model, right? 100, if it's true, 100 rides, they start to turn a profit on a per unit basis. And I think these have, so I'm a big Lime and Jump user. I probably ride 40 or 50 times a month. And I would see use in this for the slightly longer commute. So I live 3 miles from downtown. I could see this as a use case for me, even though I have train and bus and car and bike.
there are form factors in these things that I think are important, regardless of safety. And I think your perception of being in a slightly bigger thing, if you think about what a moped looks like, a slightly bigger thing with a little bit more metal between you and the road, and I'm just imagining what this thing looks like, I think that might create a false sense of greater safety.
One thing he didn't really talk about would be the support network or product. We were talking about apps earlier, and how can they make their service more attractive through a better app or some kind of technology that maybe the bicycle company doesn't have.
Well, thank you all for coming and pitching today. It was really fun to listen to all your stories and all your companies. Greg, I'd love to give you a little feedback on Membrion. A few things we really liked about the pitch were your command of the economics. So understanding where it's going to work, how much you own of that, how much cheaper a product could be, whether it be in the desalinization or in the fuel cell category. That was really interesting. We also really like the opportunity to use your product as sort of the same in many different use cases. It feels like you have a unique piece of technology that could be applied in lots of different ways, and the challenges for you as a company is figure out where you're going to focus and make those very difficult choices. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jason, I have the privilege of giving you and Shared Technologies some feedback. Super interesting. We're really excited about the company. We liked the fact that we think you do have a differentiated product in the sense that you are attracting potentially some new users. You mentioned hills, you mentioned distance, you mentioned safety, you mentioned friendliness to a different demographic, really competitive marketplace that you're already in, and the need to move fast and not make mistakes. As you alluded to when we asked you what you worried about at night, that's really crucial in your business, and it takes sort of, guts of steel to get through all of that. So we're excited for you, and we hope you're prepared to move very quickly on this market opportunity.
Great, thank you.
So Manuela, thank you for sharing with us about designated driver. We found it very interesting, and I think you made a good pitch. It was very clear on what you were trying to do and what the company's about. So I think the focus on safety is a good one that you talked about. I think maybe there could have been some another angle also on productivity, perhaps. And I guess that kind of brings us to a little bit of a concern over what would differentiate your software from somebody else's and that barrier to entry. I think the other thing is that the timeline horizon is as we talked about, very undefined, and so that could pose some challenges for the opportunity. So, but thank you for sharing with us and telling us about it. Yeah.
Thank you for
Very
the
good.
feedback. It
Yeah.
means a lot.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
There can be only one winner in this, and Greg, congratulations to you and Membrion.
Thanks so much.
The feedback that I got from the judges today was really helpful to refine and perfect the way that we talk about our technology to help people to continue to understand the value that's there.
In our next episode, 3 new entrepreneurs will hop on board the Smith Tower elevator, competing for startup glory. Check out geekwire.com/elevator pitch for new episodes.